All right.
I never sit down without two.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's episode of Theory Forge. Phantom X is going to be running the show. Phantom X, over to you, buddy.
Hello and welcome to our Halloween special where no one is actually dressed. Um, we had some technical difficulties. It's all straightened up for now. Our guest is going to have to come back later, unfortunately. We're actually short a few people too. Um, we are very happy you all are here on such a wonderful holiday that you're here with us. Y'all know my guests here, the wonderful, amazing Sog, Neuro, and Geo. Um, we have a little bit shortened time, but we actually do have a lot to talk about. The big things today are going to be actually the Insider program ending, and then we're going to actually go over Dave's Q&A, which was a big bundle of mess that takes forever to sort through, but we're going to try to actually do that. Yeah, we'll start off with the Insider program. If you have not already heard, when was that? Wednesday? Basically, Brass sent out a email to everyone, basically confirming what was already, I think, known to be happening, which was Insider program going away as we know it. Like I said, she actually had commented on a 10-ton hammer article by Shay, I think early October, basically saying this was going to happen, but it is now actually official. So that's sort of the big news at the beginning of the week. Thoughts?
Tons.
Yep. Yep. Why don't you, Gio, why don't you start? We'll just go clockwise.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's a lot to point out. First and foremost, I am the kind of person who doesn't really feel like I guess I like deserve anything. So that's kind of how I go through life, and so I don't feel like I see that there can be some situations where it's unfortunate. Like I wish that the program would continue. I was enjoying it. I know a lot of other people were enjoying it. We were getting a lot from it. But I'm happy that it happened, and I'm okay with it ending. And I'm really excited, though, that it's not just ending. They're not just leaving us to hang dry. Supposedly, we're going to have some, maybe even a better system that comes into play with Player Direct that does a better job of showing our content and getting us out there for the work that we do, and not being this sort of like favorites game where you actually wind up getting, I feel like a lot of people wind up getting credit even if they're not producing content, just because of like the sort of like hidden nature of the Insider program. So I guess first and foremost, thank you to SOE for putting it on, and I'm sad to see it go. But I guess my first thought about it when I heard about this happening was, are they going to take us down from the front page of the website? That was the first thought that I had, because that has driven so many people to my live stream and to a lot of other people's live streams. Whether it's return viewers from people who happen to, the game is down, they go to the website, they see, and they just want to be, hang out, or it's a first time viewer to the website, they want to go and see what the game is like before they drop $100. So
That just happened today, actually. While I was playing Landmark, new person came in, said, yeah, actually two people came. One bought the Trailblazer for 33, the other one got a 7-day beta key, so found me through the Landmark page. Continue, please.
Well, yeah, that's like one of my first observations about it. It's just, I hope that they continue with particularly that perk to the live streamers to put us up on the front page of the website.
Yeah. Sog, how about you?
I think that it was terribly. All right, I'm looping through.
That was
here.
a phantom echo. It's cleared.
Okay. I think it was unfortunate that it became this. Is this me?
No, that's Phantom X. You got an echo going, Phantom X.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. I think it's unfortunate that it became this like us and them situation where like I know there were a couple of people who were denied entry to the insiders program, like that and the way that it was handled with, well, how do you know if you're special enough to be a part of it? That was really unfortunate. But the idea behind it is that the marketing plan to find ways to actively support other people driving a vibrant, active community, I agree with the core there completely. And without the insider program, they may have done something different, but people argue that the community of Landmark is really a community on Twitch or really a community on Twitter, and see this as a problem. But at the same time, we're coming up on almost a year of virtually no new content and new things to do, and we're still hanging out and having a good time, and it's that extra outside thing that's helping keep the community together. And like as Neuro said, it's bringing it, that kind of interaction is even helping new people become exposed to the game and bring them in. So as long as the good parts are going to be adequately replaced, I'm okay with the change, because this us and them and who gets what and how it all worked just didn't, it created too much friction within the community. Now, I think that the player direct, where you're submitting your content and it gets voted on and then they pick who they feature, I think that's more risky. I think
that what it's going to be?
That's kind of what player direct right now is. It's content sharing. So like you could say, I make YouTube videos. So then your YouTube videos go up into this like player submission thing, right? And then you could potentially get rewards and kickbacks by adding to this group site of everything. And it takes away from really harnessing individuals as marketers for the game. And I might be wrong, I might be seeing it the wrong way, but I want to make sure the good parts of the system stay, and I don't know how that can work.
Well, it's kind of an interesting thing, because they've talked about it's not necessarily that the insider program is going away, that they're removing it and they're killing the front page whitelist and all of that stuff. It's more that they've said that player direct is basically absorbing, it's inheriting the insider program, and it's part of a new system, a new phase that's coming to player direct. So what that actually is going to mean and how it's going to work, I have no idea. It's really hard to say. It might be exactly as you're saying, or it might be completely different. There might be different parameters based on the type of content. Fan art, cosplay, that sort of stuff might be a completely different category than live streams, and that might be a completely different category than just recorded YouTube videos. So there might be a lot of different categories people can participate in, and I'm not sure if it's going to be an individual reward, like you get one of these monthly items, or you get to choose between these sorts of items, or if it's going to be more like, hey, you've done a great job, here's 5 things, you can use one for yourself, but give some to your buddies too, because you're awesome, and I'm sure your buddies are awesome too. And doing that as some sort of an incentive program to allow people to work harder if they want to get more rewards, either for themselves or their friends.
I still don't have a lot of
My
information on
fear-
the updates.
My fear is that it becomes a greater an addition to what's already kind of there with the upvotes and everything, and a content and an artist popularity kind of situation where, you know, it already is like that, where people that are more prominent with the social media and have larger followings end up getting more kickbacks because they have more reach. But it's not, that reach is less artificially manipulated by Sony themselves. You know, there have been a couple situations where certain people in the Insider program were given very, very special opportunities that boomed their channels, or whether it was YouTube or being featured somewhere that got their Twitter accounts and everything going, or some live streamers. But when the way that I read it, and knowing kind of what Player Direct already is, I don't want there to be this I don't know, I don't like artist competition. I don't feel at home in that kind of.
I don't know that it's necessarily going to remain competition, or if it's going to be more like an anything goes, like everybody submit your stuff. You know, eventually it'll get enough thumbs up that you'll get the rewards, or maybe it's a, you know, submit enough content thing, and even if it's not the best, we'll still give you kickbacks. I have no idea how it's going to work, what levels of automation versus you know, actual SOE staff interaction is going to be involved with the process. So it's and it's something that I had asked. You know, we've kind of got a little discussion going, that I actually asked what is actually going to be going on. We'd really like to know as insiders what's going to be going on about the new program, so we can give our feedback as soon as possible. So I'm hoping that we get more details soon, and that we'll be able to you know, really dig into the details soon about what the new Player Direct system is going to be all about, and how everybody's going to be able to, or how anybody is going to be able to utilize it, and you know, what it's actually going to be there for, what it's going to do, and if it's going to be something that's potentially exploitable, or potentially creates issues within the community because of, say, a large community group popularity issues, or, you know, other sorts of things.
Yeah, I think people should understand, you know, the insiders, for those who are not insiders, we actually don't know anything more than you pretty much at this point. We know there's probably going to be some sort of reward with the Player Direct. That was sort of in the message. We also know that it's not just going to be Landmark. They're going to open it up to all games. But beyond that, we really don't know much. You know, on that note, I actually feel bad for the people who were really pushing, because for people who don't know how the insiders worked, you hit levels and things are tracked, and you get benefits. Basically, you hit a certain number, you can get someone from the dev team on your stream. You can go out to SOE, things like that. And there were people that I feel for. Now, there weren't that many, but there were some people that were really pushing that at this point didn't reach that goal and never will. But, you know, whether that continues to Player Direct, that's even something we don't know. I understand what they're trying to do, get everyone involved, but it does sort of diminish things. You know, I think my take on it, I think the biggest issue, and it spawned out of the idea of, well, why do I need to watch someone play a game that I want to play to get something in the game that I'm wanting to play? I don't think people realize that
it's not valid.
Well, and that's what I'm getting to. I don't think people realize you can get these codes other places. I was trying to give them away. Nobody would ever take them. Had nothing to do with Twitch. But
Well,
I think that's
it kind of
the animosity
does.
spawn. I mean, for me, quite honestly, Saga, it's like, hey, retweet this tweet. That's all you got to do. But it's hard to get people to do that.
Friday Night Fight Club's on the forums every week. You don't need to be on Twitch to be involved, and you get insider program or insider rewards. So there was the pumpkin patch event that happened that Fierce put on. He doesn't have a Twitch. He barely uses Twitter. So, I mean, there are a lot of people who do in-game events. I know Whiteberry does in-game events. She also does Twitter. there's plenty of stuff that's in game that doesn't require any social media, and even I think even on the forums, like, and there's other ways to get them too. You could buy like Sony, you can buy something from Sony, and then they'll give you a feather in a bottle. These things are super accessible. It's I don't know. So I that's one argument that like I've yet to feel like there's a solid evidence to show that like the insider items were unfair ever.
Now, here's a weird thing I want to point out. Everybody who got accepted in the insider program, from what I understand, unless they did something so egregious that they got banned from SOE, and I don't think anybody did that. If you hit the reward tier that you're getting the monthly rewards, you're gonna get them whether you're streaming or not, whether you're participating or not. I know there's people who got in the insider program that are pretty much sitting on 25 to upwards of 100. Some of the people that sold a lot of stuff. I wonder, Co probably has hundreds of everything in his email. He sold tons and tons. He was only here for a moment, and he sold tons of those founders packs. So, that's
I've got a lot too.
Yeah.
I'm on tons of codes.
I've been trying to get through them.
The one thing that I can understand, some people are adverse. That there's a feeling towards live streaming in general that some people have, where this whole thing kind of began. Like, why should I have to watch someone play this game to be eligible to get a reward? And because that was the one that the people live streaming were doing the best job of actively promoting, and there were more of them. But there are quite a few YouTubers in the program that, they weren't as connected with the community, and you didn't hear as much from. But even like large companies like Nintendo feels that way about streaming. Nintendo says watching people play video games is not fun, is a direct Nintendo quote. There is a large portion of the population that is just not interested in that and thinks the concept is dumb, and that's not going to change. But we need to find a way to separate that from. That's not that's a problem with people not being interested in Twitch, and you don't or whatever other streaming service they use, and that's fine. That's fine. That's not the problem that was the problem with the insider program, and there were problems.
Mario Kart and Smash
Bring
Brothers.
up something that was way too out there?
Yeah, no, I wanted
that?
to say Mario Kart and Smash Brothers. Like, what the hell is Nintendo talking about? Are they kidding me? Those games get streamed like mad, like among other things.
Super Smash is huge.
Yeah, so that's absolutely ridiculous.
Nintendo said
That's
that.
their policy.
Well,
That's why you can't stream from a Wii U, because it's not fun. Streaming live play is not fun.
This is gonna be.
and that's
response.
it's like a very simple response. It's the same old thing in free society. You say if you don't want to do something, then you don't have to fucking do it. It's very plain and simple, right? The point is, if people were being forced to watch Twitch live streams in order to get certain items, I don't even think I have a problem with that, but I could see where there would be an opposition, some people saying like, well, I don't like that and I shouldn't be forced to do that. Then that makes sense to me, but it's not even close to the case. So
Well,
it seems like an argument that
Here's a
Yeah,
less
my-
I was gonna say
Go
real
ahead.
quick. Here's a less rewarding thing that people. It's still a reward that anybody can do if they want to. Tune in to somebody who's playing Choice Chamber, yell out Pogo, and try to get everyone else to yell out Pogo when it comes along, and it'll get the player killed. In the game Choice Chamber, you put Pogo in chat when it comes along. They get the Pogo jump, which is really hard to control and kills your double jumps, and then you die. And it's one of those things where it's kind of a reward that the players have, that if you want to kill this person, you can go in their channel and actively work towards this reward of getting them killed, or giving them the meow or the fist power-ups and clearing the screen for them. But it's the sort of thing that, it's up to the player to want that sort of thing and to actively seek it. But once again, we talked about it already. There's many places that you could get these things, and potentially with the player direct system, they could make even more creative ways to get these things. They could make it that if you you complete the biggest, baddest 5 claim dungeon that me and like 50 other people work on, and it's like, absolute hell, but you finally finish it. Yeah, you get a Halloween suit at the end. Like, that's big time. That's the sort of thing that we really would be able to do. Maybe I would say 6 months down the road from now, once we get all of the systems in for it. But right now, we don't necessarily have that. It could still be something that, like, if you make a video or do a live stream about completing the dungeon, yeah, you could still potentially get a reward for that and get some props and, maybe a shout out on Landmark Live or a little 5-minute interview or something. Who knows? There could be a lot of perks from it.
Again, my sort of where my mind goes when I hear the whole, and this is the last thing I'll say about this, is the whole Twitch argument. As I was reading in the forums the complaints and the science behind it of I spent so many X hours on person-wise stream and I got this, I'm sitting there thinking just yesterday I put up codes on Nexus website, on Twitter. I got 3 people wanting involved. Where, there are so many other ways to get these things, but that's as I'm reading the Twitch.
The conversation doesn't need to go past, like we as Twitch live streamers, or 3 of us, and you as a content creator, we need to be able to recognize the difference between a valid and logical conversation to have with somebody and the shit that is on the Landmark forums. Now, there are some really good people that are involved in talking and have good, intelligent conversations, but a lot of these people, they say things that are straight up irrational, don't make any sense from a scientific point of view. Like, you don't need to go to Twitch to get these rewards. So you can do in-game events, you can do Twitter events. There's some people giving away on the forums. There's you can just ask your friend if he's an insider. There's I could think of 15 more ways of maybe getting an insider code. The point is that the people just wanted to complain about something and they chose that. And I feel like by giving it that specific conversation validity, it makes us to me, it makes us feel like we're just spinning our gears for nothing.
So let's move forward. Player direct.
Yeah.
They'll come. I don't know what it's going to be.
As far as our original conversation, that's different. I don't mean to, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to sound harsh there. If that's, I didn't mean. What I was trying to say though is just that particular conversation about people, the rage about Twitch on the forums, and is Twitch, people saying it's not fair. That's it. That conversation, it doesn't have any factual evidence to support it. So
I think
but there are some things that I want to see for the insider program.
The thing I noticed that I worry about with Player Direct as far as what they are going to do, I think I saw mention of even using Vines as somehow part of the system. I have no idea what they're going to do. It kind of terrifies me a little bit, but we'll see. Any more comments on this?
We do need to address that Diggs kind of in chat put us back on. The real argument is a deeper one that's been a problem with Landmark from the start and the social systems in the game of why should I ever have to go outside of the game or maybe Sony's website or the forums to get anything involved with the game? I think that's a valid feeling for people to have, right? That it's nice that as a marketing plan, they reach out and get other people involved, and we're embracing this new idea. I obviously am very much for it, but I just want to say that I can understand and I can relate to that feeling of wait, I'm playing your game all the time. I show up to your dev talks or whatever. I stop by the forums every single day and I reply to anything that I want to. Why then do I need to go somewhere else to be eligible for a special item? And maybe bringing it all home is a good thing to satisfy. That could very well be the vast majority of people playing SOE games, as far as I know, because I don't hear from, I never know what percentage of the gaming population I'm actually connected to. So bringing it all home may be the right thing to do. And I'll leave it at that. I want to say that there is some validity to the feeling of not wanting to go outside of official channels.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
thought
but that's
to that-
different than what we were talking about.
Yeah, it is. My thought to that is you're talking about something completely different. It's marketing budget of probably limited to nothing on a free to play game. You're going to have to go outside of the game just because that's where they're going to get their exposure. There's no way around that. So you're not a WoW making 60-second commercial spots on, Super Bowl or well, they don't pay that, but you know what I mean. So.
Well, so
All right.
there is the front page thing, the front page being on the front page of the website. Zog brought something up before that I always thought was interesting, and I had some personal opinions about, but then I tried to be rational and be like, I wanted to look at it from a way that was fair for everybody. So, with Landmark is a very interesting niche community in Twitch, where most people who watch Landmark are hardcore players or want to be hardcore players but don't have the opportunity to for PC because their computer is not working or working with the game, or they just are at work, whatever the reason being. Usually people who watch Landmark would be playing Landmark or are playing Landmark when they're watching it. With a lot of other games, it's not always the case. There's a huge Twitch community that exists outside of the gaming world. For example, I know people who don't game who watch the League of Legends Dota championships because they're just interested in esports. Like, they like that as a concept. Now, I came into Landmark as somebody who was an established streamer, and they actually offered me Insider Program. They reached out, they said, hey, we want to give you the ability to be a part of what we're doing here, and we'd like you to help support and promote our game. And I was totally cool with that. And actually what I did at the time was made a huge commitment and said, I'm going to stop doing what I'm doing because I find that the fact that you're making this possible for people who put a lot of time and effort into their live stream, the fact that you're doing this shows me that, like, you guys care about Twitch. And to the contrary, over time, it felt like as more and more people started to do their typical banter about just how they straight up don't like Twitch, SOE seemed to panic a little bit. They started to remove their kind of like requirements to become in the Insider Program. They actually, some people who were never streamed before, who like just want and a friend of mine too, Noodlecat, for example, just started streaming, and she got Insider Program pretty quickly afterwards. Now,
Poro actually was approached when she was just sculpting, maybe a few hundred people and followers. Rye came through and said, hey, we want you in the Insider Program. Okay.
Yeah. And so I just find it interesting that there was it seems like they were changing the program on the fly without really giving us, telling us that they were going to do it, which I adapted to it. And like I said, it didn't help me because as somebody who already had an established group or following, I didn't really it's better for me personally, in a greedy way, to say I want to have as little insiders as possible, because that means that I have the most exposure and I'm always in the limelight. Now, I don't necessarily care about. I want to help promote the community, so that's why I'm not I don't really care. But I just wanted to point out that there is that concept, Co-Carnage, Elohim, these big streamers that came in here, and they might have lost interest, or they could have lost interest, because I know that it definitely was a thought that came through my mind because of the saturation of the insider market. So, did you guys feel how did you guys feel about that? Did you think that was a good piece of the were you glad that they started to open it up? Did you feel like they should have kept it more tight?
I would be happy if I only was getting 25 to 50 people out of 2,000 people watching Landmark at any given time. I would be happy about that, because that means there's 2,000 people watching Landmark. That's a huge amount of people that they'll pour back and forth between the various different channels. It's a very open community. A lot of people know a lot of people. Will rate each other back and forth. We now have the host feature. We didn't have that before, but we don't have 2,000 people watching Landmark anymore, unfortunately. So there's unfortunately some amount of give and take with the big surge that came initially, and then kind of the slow trickle, and almost trying to use the Insider Program not to necessarily grasp at viewers, but as a way to try to reinforce the viewers they already had and try to keep everyone coming back. It also, once again, worked as a really good way, the insiders, anybody else who was put on the streaming whitelist, to have the front page exposure, because anybody who goes to Landmark website, they'll see who's streaming, they'll see how many people, they'll be able to go to the channel, and these are all folks who are, they've already been checked out, they've already been, verified for what they do, or at least they've been looked at 2 or 3 times during their streams. They're all not like, oh shit, motherfucker, SOE, what the fuck is this? And just being a train wreck on stream. So
I don't know about that.
well, maybe
We just
you.
do that now. Yeah, we just do it now. Now that we're in the program, now we can bash them.
All right,
Elbow.
so we have spent a fair amount of time on this. Last words, no?
Let's do it.
Yes.
Too many. Let's see
Too
it.
many.
Let's see
We
it
need
goodbye.
We need a show dedicated to this, and unfortunately, Insiders is not in our title here. So, all right. So the next thing we are going to look at, Dave did a huge Q&A. Well, huge. Well, I guess it was pretty big. He got suspended on Twitter because he was thought to be spamming. And somehow, actually, I
That's pretty
think
hilarious.
Felgon did too, but I don't know why he did. But a lot of info, maybe newish, some stuff. It's not quite, but there was a lot on there. Too much for me to sort through. So I think what we're going to do is just actually work through what you guys want to talk about, and the host, but also in chat. If there was something you saw in that big Twitter stream, just type it in chat so that we know you want to talk about it. And we'll, I guess, spend the next 40 minutes wrapping up kind of with this. There was a lot in there. So, and I know there are a few topics you guys kind of noticed, Neuro and Sog especially.
Yeah, so I'll just rattle off the quick list. Flying by the end of the year, it's something that's tied to the crafting system, apparently. They want to give us more claims in one area, like 3x3 or more potentially, but it's really based on performance. That's something I feel weird about, and I kind of like to pause on that one. We'll go back after I go through the list here. Pathfinding, delayed mobs coming in, way longer than they had anticipated. That totally makes sense to me. Pathing and Vox, we'll talk about that again. Linking and triggering comes in after monsters. That's not really news. I think that was already in the blueprint. And they can give us an RNG emote because people want to be able to do like /roll 100 or something and be able to do in-game RNG to be able to split up loot or stuff like that. So that was just the quick stuff I was able to get in before I had to start doing show setup stuff here. But I kind of want to double back on this list here and specifically talk about more claims in one area based on performance. I, going back a little ways, had the idea in my head that we would get better performance and better efficiency out of our claims if they cut down the size of the claim by 1/8, got it by horizontally, vertically, or cut it this way, and cut it this way, 3 ways, so that way you've got 8 chunks basically for the size representing one current claim. So that way, if you're using just half of one of your claims, you don't need to have the space occupied, and you can actually potentially make better use of your ability to place voxels in the area. So that, I think, would be something, even with the current amount of space that we get, not everybody needs to build everything an entire claim high. A lot of people are happy with something that's just half a claim high, and only part of it needs to be a full claim. So giving us that option, instead we have what, 7 claims now, so multiply by 8, was that 56 or something? That's a bunch of smaller pieces that we can string together in the shapes and positions we need. That would also give people the option to actually create roads and paths, because I know a lot of people want to be able to have something that goes outside and kind of a path, a trail leading up. We can't really do that if we're already using 5 or 6 claims just to put the damn thing there and actually be able to build it up, even if we're only using like half the height of it. So we'd really be able to get a lot more options, and we wouldn't need to worry nearly as much about the amount of voxels being used in an area. It's the same amount of voxels being used right now. It just so happens that it's being split up differently and spread out differently. LOD is the only issue I could see with that, but now that they've got the new LOD system in, which is beautiful, it really isn't as much of an issue anymore. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, the first the first thing you said was a beautiful idea. I mean, you brought up all the reasons why it'd be a great idea. My favorite reason was that many people do want to be able to create roads to their streams, or I'm sorry, roads to their builds, or want to be able to like have these very odd shaped builds because of just what makes sense, and that would give them the opportunity to have more builds overall. So that's a really solid idea. Kudos.
Sog, you two are a builder. What are your thoughts on this?
For like number of claims and
Yeah.
size of claim.
Yeah, splitting them up to 1/8 of the size, and giving us 8 times as many, so we can place them and piece them as we really want to.
I would rather have a slightly more amorphous claim placing, where you have a total amount of claim volume that you can claim, and you can claim that through a selection box, for example. And multiple selection boxes. The fact that the claims are a fixed size, which is so large. If you cut them down smaller and you were adding them on, you would kind of be solving this. But to me, I would like to see you, just like your inventory volume, you purchase a claim volume. If I could have it any way I wanted, I would claim with the selection box. What if I only want, Gio was saying, what if I want to build a road to my claim? I've got all of this space. I don't really need to claim the area in the sky. I just want to claim, like, basically just that strip of ground for a while, and I can get it even longer. That's how I would do it. But splitting it down to a smaller size, if it's going to be fixed to allow a broader range of shapes, I think would be great, apart from the huge difficulty in managing templates. As long as that problem,
We need
as long as the
folders.
as long as the template system could get fixed up, and I'm sure eventually it has to be much easier to use, and it will be much easier to use. They know it has to be. So I can be with you as long as the major hurdles are gone. I shouldn't have to label, this is Sog's claim A2, to know where that one fits when I try to rebuild it and pick it up and move it around.
That would be ultimately great if we could have that concept of that you were mentioning before. There are some issues that I would see that would arise with that, though. One of them being, first of all, like right now we have a lot of space. If the game ever becomes populated, we'd wind up with a lot of people, like there's a lot of trolling that can come out of that, like people like just tagging random land in the middle of nowhere. And we have to take into account that they do want that buffer zone for mining and like world action. So how would the buffer zone necessarily play into that, the ability to literally just make a small selection box and claim that as my own building space?
There's no way that you could claim the entire, even if you had all of your claims, your root claims and everything, with what we have right now, there's no possibility that you could cover the entire surface area of that kind of buffer zone. There's always other things they could do, limitations they could put, like you can only have it a certain radius, like it doesn't matter how many segments, just a certain physical radius from the start point or a specific point on your root claim. I'm not really 100% sure, technically how they would be able to do it, but I'm pretty sure they would make it so you can only get so close to the edge, and another one can only get so close to the edge. Because I have seen a lot of times where there is a little bit of overlap with the buffer zone with two claims that are near each other, so you wouldn't want to have people actually building on top of one another. That would be quite problematic.
And that's I just feel like that would happen a lot if we went with like a sort of like volume based system of claiming.
Everyone knows already that I hate the claiming system in general. I just don't like the. I think it's the most awkward feature in the game, and I think it's the core to a lot of difficulties coming in the long run. But I'm gonna hold back on that, and temper my own dislike for it because Dark Boo, he mentioned in chat a little bit earlier, like Landmark doesn't feel like a game yet because we're missing all of these other features. And as Landmark starts to feel like more of a game, and as more is going on in the environment around, and as all of the tiers of caves come in, when there's the SOE content going on around the claimed area and ways that we can interact with it, I want to know how it's going to feel with that. And part of the reason I don't like claiming parts of an island is because you create this pocket within a world that exists around you. And it feels more disjointed to me than just having a drop-down menu like in Project Spark to play somebody's creation. But it could be that I'm missing a piece of information, and it turns out that the way that we have it is important and ends up being a good thing. So I'm going to wait till we have more going on in the world to really dive into more suggestions on how the claim system could get better.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of systems in the game right now that I find are really like they feel very cookie cutter at the moment, but I think that there has to be some reason why they did it that way on their side of things. And so again, I would actually agree with you here. I think claims, it would be fair to say let's let a lot of the other systems come into play, because claims will probably have to play around a lot of the other systems and would play around them easier than they would play around claims. So
I have to say I have no opinion in this matter. I'm not a builder.
It's going to be
I
in the
will-
world. If you decide to play, you're going to have a claim there that's in the middle of whatever's going on that you may be interested in, the ongoing content around that claim, and something's there. Claims affect everyone.
I would like to rephrase. Until we have story bricks and I can put someone else's creation on my claim, I have no opinion right now.
yeah, I do wonder too how. I do wonder how maybe they would work around. For one of the biggest workarounds would be when they actually add things like rivers and big canyons and stuff like that. That to me would be a really good time to reconsider or to have to change the claim system, because those things I feel like they will be prominent, whereas now there are none, and that might that would definitely change the way that people might want to grab terrain. So yeah, that's just one example of many things that'll change.
So we've got a great comment here from Noodlecat. Many things are the way they are because they needed a skeleton system, and so we could do things such as build. Now they have the time to spend to go back and rework it all like new UI that we got. That's absolutely right.
And that's the impression that we get. That's what they tell us. So the only issue we have with this is time. That's we've talked about it a lot, and a lot of people are it's taking a lot of time to really get back into those systems. But I would personally rather them take their time and do a good job with their systems. As long as they're working hard, I would give them as much time as they want. As like I said, granted that they're working hard and putting the effort in. So
I want one update to come with changes to a system that we've given a lot of feedback to say that's really we've had little tweaks to building and changes here and there and trying to get all of the things fit in, and because we're still waiting on the core systems, we don't get any of these updates that we got this feedback and now we want to adjust it towards the feedback, because now everything's still just being adjusted to fit in the next thing, and it leaves us in this like intermediate spot that's kind of difficult. It's difficult for me to give a valid opinion as I'm sitting here ranting again. And by the end of the year, Phantom X asked the best question today. By the end of the year, we should have a lot of those features where then we can start saying, look, we gave you all this feedback. We need these changes. It's going to make the game better for you. We'll see.
That would be really, it's one thing that SOE is doing, but I feel like they're overwhelmed, and I feel like it's showing that they are taking our feedback, but there's so many people who make it hard for SOE. They give them a hard time. They, sit on their shit. They make it really difficult, I think, for the community managers. Now that they're definitely really good at their job, but they make it really hard for them to be as open as they might want to be because of how harshly and critically people are judging them. Like, for example, Noodle just pointed out something that I would agree with, that this is all a skeleton. And yet most of the time, when I have a conversation with somebody, they speak about the game as if it's like, as if this is their permanent opinion about the game because of a skeleton system. And, that's something that I feel like is really going to hinder or push away any company, whether it be SOE or any other game company, to want to work with their players, because they're going to constantly feel like their players aren't, instead of giving them constructive criticism and changes, are just giving them complaints. And I wouldn't trust somebody to take their opinion if that's the way that they give me, if that's the way that they want to give me information through like emotional complaints. But that's I guess that's really is a personal opinion.
For me, honestly, like most things I have to complain about in Landmark are things that they probably complain about too, like the dying when you teleport still being an issue, or random artifacting here and there, tools misbehaving in various different ways. But other than that, it's for me, I still kind of say I see the initial idea of what Landmark was intended to be, the vision they set forth to put in our hands, and I can see that we're still a long way from achieving that. But
yeah,
it seems like they're pretty much putting everything on the line to be able to make it happen, because it's part of the main system for building EverQuest Next is making sure that Landmark is good and optimized and has things that work and have the tools that allow people to build the stuff that will then end up populating EverQuest Next. It's beyond just making voxel and prop structures. It's actually, I would say, that's only going to be about half of it. The other half is really going to be the in-game interactions, the vast dynamic story arcs that people build in a 3x3 claim, or a 2x3 claim. And you can have, in that sort of space, you can tell an entire, you can tell the story that would fit in like a 500-page novel. And that'd take players days and days and days to complete. And that could just be some little place somewhere in EverQuest Next that, then the next week later, after the content's been completed, gets raided by orcs and gets burned to the ground, never to appear again on that server. That's the sort of awesome stuff that I'm really excited for. And it's not just that, it's also the ability for players to be able to make that stuff in Landmark and be able to have that sort of content and not just have it be fantasy. I plan to do a lot of sci-fi stuff.
I'm very, I can come across as very pessimistic. I want to make it very clear, I'm still very much excited for Next and Landmark.
I don't think you do.
I'm just very
personally.
I'm just very much sort of business-like. If you tell us this, it should be this. But anyways, so I want to make that clear. It does sound like, though, that potentially by December we're going to have sort of an explosion of something new systems-wise that they're sort of been hinting at a lot. So hopefully, in a month and a half, there will be, because I think he made the comment. Someone asked Dave, when will there be a reason for a non-builder to call this place home? And his response was, basically, yes, by the end of this year, you will see why. So, I hope they hold true to their word, but at the same time, they don't deal in absolutes, which is what makes me pessimistic. So,
It's the thing with what they're doing is they're taking on a big project from what I would consider, and I would compare it to the other gaming companies and games that are being released now. So what they're trying to do is revolutionary from concept. Now, another thing that I said before is I personally find that SOE seems like one of the most passionate and devoted game companies that I know. And I think that a combination of this next gen, really innovative system, plus the passion and the determination that they have to make this game a game that they would want to play, I think those two things are resulting in them really, unfortunately, needing to push back the amount of time that it takes for each update to come out. I think that they want to do things right. They don't want to half-ass things, and that is creating a situation where they realize that we need to fix this, we need to fix this, this core system needs to be fixed, and that's why things keep getting pushed back and pushed back. That, if that's the case, which I hope it is, and I believe that it is, then I am okay personally with the wait and dealing with the pushbacks. But of course, if it's not, then that's a bummer. So,
You know what I wish they would do? I wish they would explain why. Just why? Why not now? Not just come out and say, "Oh, it's next week. It's next week. It's next week." I can understand there maybe are trades. Maybe they don't know. Maybe there are trade secrets. But at least
no, it's not trade secrets. I can tell you, I've been in big and small production environments, and I've seen this sort of thing happen. It's happened to me before. I've had it happen many times. It happened all the time when I was an intern over at Neopets. We would schedule 1 hour for me to complete a task. An hour later, it's like, I need another 30 minutes. I just couldn't complete it in that amount of time, even if nothing came up, even if I was, dead focused, no messenger with anybody else working there, no other things. I was definitely somebody who was 100% focused on work, no music or outside websites. So an hour was a solid hour of work, but it wasn't enough for me to complete what we had scheduled. So whether I said that it was an hour or they said it was an hour, it didn't matter. It turns out it was going to take an hour and a half. It's not one of those things where it's like, oh, well, it took an extra 30 minutes. We're going to punish you by blah, blah, blah. It's not something like that. It's one of those things that's like, well, shit, it's going to take an extra half hour. All right, well, whoever is going to be waiting on that for, to be able to get those final feedback results in, be able to get the final build out, that's what it's going to be. It's just going to be delayed by a half hour. Sucks, but that's what it is. That's what happens when we leave all of our QA on one intern.
Well, I mean, today was a perfect example for why I say that. I'm not much of a PvPer. I'm not a builder. I want the PvE. Today was really the first time he acknowledged to everyone, pathing. That's an issue. We're in new territory. It's hard to figure out. In a landscape that will constantly change. That's an issue. I hear that, I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
They said that for a while.
Why.
He's been saying,
yeah, but I mean,
just for that particular case,
just one example is why.
Right, I agree. I mean, I think that because they're so open, it's imperative for them to. They can't do, or if they play like if they don't play into the full game of what they've started here with being fully connected with the community, it's going to wind up looking bad on them. So I agree. By being so open, not everybody is going to be as understanding and going to be as willing to deal with not being not knowing why. And so I think that there are enough people that have that mentality that they definitely should be keeping us in the loop, as up to date as they can. They should actually. I don't know if I would think it would be the community manager, or maybe they should even hire somebody to do this if this is the way that they want to approach a game development. But they really should have somebody who's there and who is giving us updating the blueprint constantly, making sure that we know when we're getting things at what time. Maybe do more of those interviews with the developers from their end, where they actually talk about what's happening this week, as far as just updates and the things that are going to be happening over the next couple of weeks. Just updates. I think that kind of thing would be more straightforward and would appease many people who have this desire to get the information on the systems and why they're not being released. So that would be something that I would think that they should do.
I think everything changes when we get the system. I think that if we really get these next big systems by the end of the year, that all of our conversations change. Like we've just been making stuff up for months and months and months about what we already have and talking about what we dream of and what it's going to be. That everything that we have said in the past and everything, like, here's my big thing. Everybody talks about getting story bricks like it's some kind of like awesome tool for us building, when really I'm pretty sure the majority of that is when they're adding in story bricks, that's just they're adding in story bricks driven AI for the mobs outside of the claims. They're going to have a separate kind of system using in claims. It's not, because what Storybricks is an AI. It's an automatic like plug and play kind of system from the demos that they've done. It's not a huge scripting program. There will be limited scripting for mobs on claims, and the storytelling level is going to be it. But me feeling like it's going to be more constrained, and some people feeling like it's going to be more open, that's still just a lot of speculation. We've seen the same things, but there's speculation. If by the end of the year we have all of the core systems in and we're playing with them, then we're going to have some really cool ideas about, well, this is what I want to do in the game. This is what I want to get people involved with. This is how I think the game needs to evolve, and these are the things that I think really need to change. But right now I say we're close, but I said we were close at the end of May when when they made me feel like we were close. I said we were close at the middle of August when I felt like we were really close. Now it's the end of October, beginning of November, and they say we're really close. We're really close. It's coming, guys. It's coming.
Yeah, it's been a long road.
When we're there, and if it's by the end of the year, or late November or December, looking at the roadmap, some things are going to push into next year. They will. I'm okay with that. I've been okay with it for a long time, but really close to my point, Krebcheck, is that I want to say things, but when we're just about to get things that change the fundamentals of what we know about the game, I want to hold back. That's my point. My point is that I can't make a point until we have all of the keys, all of the pieces right now. And if they're coming that soon, 6 weeks from now, 7 weeks, because we're on an off week, so it has to be an odd number from now. If that's the case, I want to see it. Just get my hands on it. Whatever you got, just give it to me right now.
I felt that way a lot too, Sog. Even like sometimes, even when we're having conversations on Theory Forge, like I just will sometimes be really quiet because like I can't formulate a good kind of like idea of what the game will be like just because of what you just said. The game is going to change and everything is going to be overhauled so soon. And what I've been really sticking to, for example, on the forums, is I just like to give suggestions for the way that I would like to. I know that it's going to change, but I want to give suggestions on how I think it should change, because I mean, ultimately we are, we're just talking. We're just theorizing. And it's not like the things that we say are going to produce real change in the game. But I don't know. I actually just have fun talking about it.
Maybe they will produce change. The contests are changing. We talked about that last week.
The contests? Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, the competitions, yeah.
2 weeks ago, when
what was that?
Morgar was in chat.
Yeah, that was when they had mentioned it. I mean, he's been in chat the past couple of weeks, but it was 2 weeks ago where they had talked about that. I honestly hope that they kind of abandon the silly system they're doing now and just release all the content for all the races and let us build on all of them as we want and experiment on all of them. And then as they give us a schedule of when all of the races, each one is going to be done for the contests, and they can probably need to do 2 or 3 rounds for each one, but have them be shorter rounds, like 2 weeks to submit, but you have all up until then to submit, and then there's going to be another 2-week set, 2-3 months down the road, another like revision update sort of thing. I think that would be a much better way of doing it. It would allow people to really anticipate what they want to work on, really choose what they actually want to work on too. It's it kind of sucks if everybody's like, well, I'm just going to work on this one because this is the one that's available right now, but I really want to work on the dwarves. And for them not to be able to work on the dwarves and make progress towards it because they just haven't released the style guide. I guess they have kind of released some of the stuff now a little bit, but not as like they've done with the ogre recently because it was selected.
Well, and there's a couple things that you said there that I would disagree with. And the first thing I'll point out is the concept of us needing the style guides to work on a race. Now this is a personal opinion. I think that people should not feel like they need to wait for SOE to give them a handout of a flyer of this is what you need to build. In fact, I think that we'll get better culture out of the races if we do have a mixture of different people's original ideas, and they build on what they think that race is, and then if SOE looks and kind of picks from all the things that they've built instead of just getting shitload of things that all look the same. So I personally like the concept, build without the style guide in mind at first. I think another thing with SOE, as far as where SOE standing, I guess that this is going to be one of the hardest processes when it comes to developing the races, is the original concept of what is each race going to stand for, what are they going to look like, what are they going to be like. And I think that this particular situation probably requires them to give their full attention to each race one at a time so they can get that really solid foundation. And then maybe once we do get those solid foundations, we can go ahead and then be like, all right, now everybody can just build based off of these general ideas that we have. To me, that seems more effective, and probably what they need to do in order to create good lore for EverQuest Next.
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of ways they could still do that, but I definitely see where you're coming from with that.
I would be more invested at this point, quite honestly, if there was just more than building. I keep saying that. I'm just not a builder. I don't think there's many other places. And I think there are a lot of people like me out there, but I don't know. I just don't know where I would even fit right now. They're not going to let me design lore. I mean,
well, I actually read all the books. Like I went through all of them just 2 days ago, and I feel like the stories that are being written, the short stories, can definitely be changed by by what we give to each race. Like there's a couple that have been really set in stone, like the elves, the dark elves and the high elves. Their races are already very, very set in stone with what SOE wants. Ogres have been mentioned a lot in that game, but there are a lot of races that really have not developed any lore yet. And I've been actually starting discussions on the EQN forums about this. And that's where I think that maybe you can get involved if you care about lore. Go to those forums. Like I posted up some videos of some dwarves that I really like, that I would like to see SOE embrace. Maybe you can even just get in the game and I guess, it sounds stupid, but just talk about it, do what you do now, basically show yourself on live shows like this and give your opinions about the lore and how that should all be. I bet that'll be the best way for you to kind of get your ideas out there to SOE. And hopefully when we get Morgard here, we can really get that going.
all right. Well, there anything else, the Q&A today? Anything else that you guys noticed? Anything that stuck out? I think I was mentioning in chat that for me the biggest thing is just time frame. We're still just. He said they have an idea of their open beta date, but he obviously wouldn't share that. So at least they have an idea. Hopefully they reach it.
I heard that a long time ago. I heard that right when closed beta was that they had a date. So
well, dates are funny.
They've got a target. They've got a date that they have to live up to. I hope that we've done our job as testers to help them get there. Help, because
Yeah.
it's hard to know right now. And I really, all I do now in the game when I'm playing is log into test changes and post my feedback. And I've been in the game to make sure that I do that. Today, that I had fewer friends online than I've ever had. There were only 2 people on my 600-person friends list online this morning. Daddy-O and one other person. But yeah, I hope that we've helped. But going back to what Phantom X asked, what stood out to me in Twitter, Portivar asked about animating voxels. And I had talked to Dave Georgeson briefly in game, and he had mentioned, without being prompted, just like talking about saying, just wait until we can animate voxels, So, but the response was, it's a huge R&D project that we haven't even started yet. So I was taken aback a little bit by that. I thought that was already something that was planned to come based on a brief interaction, and that was what I learned, that they haven't even started working on it, and I was a little bit disappointed because I want to do that. I think animating voxels will be awesome. Planet Explorers is great.
I think they might still be waiting for more of the technology to either be refined or to be kind of prepared for them to put into Landmark. That might be the other side of things, is that they could start going forward with it, but some of the work might already be kind of either not necessarily being done for them, but there might be something with Voxel Farm, or however they're going to be doing the animation, or whatever the system's going to be, and just kind of waiting for that stuff to be set up and ready for Landmark and handed to them, or otherwise have an update that's going to come through that's going to make it work really well with the Forge Light engine. I really have no idea why they haven't gotten started with it yet, but it could be something beyond just planning. It could be something that's completely out of their control.
Whatever the reason is, the answer that was given was that they haven't even started the R&D on it. So there may be roadblocks, but I think it's just that they're working on other things. But I thought that was higher up on the priority list, and I learned that it's not. But at least it's still on the one-day list.
A big question that I have that I think determines a lot of what we're talking about is, how much are they going to use voxels in EverQuest Next? Are voxels going to be the foundation of buildings, and they're going to prop a lot of buildings up to make them look proper, like a AAA MMO? Or are they going to really try to use voxels to a maximum efficiency, where they can, use them to put on everything and detail things? And I feel like that is going to determine how fast and how detailed our voxel world becomes in Landmark.
Iron Golem punching through the Karen house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Iron Golem punching through the Karen house. That's all I gotta say. SOE Live 2013. I think that's their target, is a destructible voxel prop. Oh, and that's another thing. I was disappointed that prop destruction.
That wasn't a prop though, right? That was a voxel.
No,
building.
That was voxel building, but I'm sure it would have props inside, light sources, etc. But the whole damn thing got smashed in. That was 2013, so that was much earlier. If they did the same thing right now, it'd probably look a lot cooler.
I've said this before. I wish they would take that scene and redo it with where they're at now, to show us the difference.
Agreed.
Because that's the scene everyone was introduced to. So just to I think visual, that would be one of the best ways you could say this is how far along we've come.
Yeah, I mean, there's shit, like you think back to all those videos, and I feel like playing Landmark, I actually feel like we're so far behind. Like I feel like we're further behind. Yeah, exactly.
I hope their silence has been. I hope their silence has been intentional, and that we really are moving along. I think that's where
I think it's in
EverQuest
Next and not Landmark. That's what I think. is that a lot of the focus has been on EQN getting that game up, because I think that Landmark will be a system that they can probably have running for way longer than EverQuest Next might even last, and can, like we've talked about here, it'll have many games that come out of it, and they can constantly be adding systems into a voxel world, which in my opinion, voxels as a destructible like a form of data, or like the fact that you can have like they have like the 3D sort of field, like that alone makes them next gen. So I think that EQN is probably going to be what they're focused on, while using Landmark to refine, to kind of like generally test those systems. I bet you like the art, I think that the art and the level design, I think that kind of stuff is probably being really worked hard on in EverQuest Next too right now. But
the tone that Dave had today and the AMA was completely reiterating that, like, what we're touching in Landmark really is the EQN stuff. That there isn't, that he was very clear that there isn't this like big separation, that there's like this that EverQuest Next, although it does have its own story and it has a lot of things that they need to be working on right now and can be working on right now separately, but it's not a different game at the core. Now, I would like to know, and Diggs asked a question on Twitter about a week ago, things like, well, if this is the case, why don't we have a hotbar set up for combat, like with 8 buttons, like EverQuest Next is supposed to? See, what I want a list that said, well, this is what fundamentally is different. Not the what is Landmark. Like, it's this open sandbox world where all of the content is player created. EverQuest Next is, I want to know. I want to know where that line is, that because you say you're playing EverQuest Next, but in a different wrapper. Well, this different wrapper means that I use different buttons, the combat moves differently to how we've been shown.
Humans.
The player movement is different. It feels different when we play to the videos, and I would like to know why. What do you think, Neuro? Yeah. You must have thought about this a couple times. Or all day, every day.
To be perfectly honest, I've kind of been following along with chat here for a moment, so I apologize, but yeah, pass. Back to you. I guess give it to me in the form of a question.
TLDR.
TLDR or TLDL. What Dave Georgeson was very clear in his responses that we are playing a differently wrapped version of EverQuest Next. But we get a lot of direct feedback, for example, the way the combat controls are, that says otherwise.
I would say it's an improper assumption on Dave Georgeson's part to really call this EverQuest Next in a different wrapper. This isn't EverQuest Next. It's a completely different product. It's got its own lore. It's got its own race, because we only have one race right now. It's got its own appeal. It's got its own system. It's got completely different stuff to it. The idea that we aren't even going to have to deal with the origin system like we're going to have in EverQuest Next, that's an extra challenge that's built into EverQuest Next. If we're going to have the ability to design a game where we can actually create our own classes and that sort of system, and our level ups and advancement system, and itemize it and set all the attributes for everything, and create our own custom keywords and interactions and how they work, then it would be the wrapper to create EverQuest Next. But I would say they're honestly different products, and I feel like at this point, even more than ever, it's really weird to say that they're more. I would say that one is almost the workshop for the other, but Landmark will start to kind of go off and become its own thing once EverQuest Next is more established, and I would imagine that they're probably going to spin off more things off of it. I know a lot of people were really excited for whatever that sci-fi MMO sandbox where SWG players would be able to come home to. They were really disappointed when it turned out to be H1Z1. Now, I still like H1Z1 a lot, but I still like the idea of the core mechanics of Star Wars Galaxies being made into a voxel world MMO. There were a lot of systems that worked really well, like the procedural material system, or just having to hang out and chill in the cantina to kind of cool off between battles for a little while. That had a lot of great systems to it, and I would love to see a new MMO made with a lot of that same sensibility, but no Lucas, I guess now Disney properties involved with it. But going back to what you're saying about the actual controls, I have no idea what the controls look like in EverQuest Next right now. I imagine they look like shit. I imagine they just look like little pencil drawings, just filler art. I don't really know how much complete art they have other than stuff that they would have for press releases and demos, and that might just be temporary stuff that they're just showing for what features they have right then and there, just to kind of make it look pretty. Ultimately, I don't think we're really going to know what the interface and the controls for EverQuest Next is going to be like for quite a while, even as we get further along with Landmark, and we maybe even get into the closed beta for EverQuest Next, if they're going to have one. That I think we'll start to see that the controls really are going to be potentially quite different from one another, from product to product, and I don't know what one will be able to necessarily take from the other, but I can definitely say if you play one, you'll probably be able to walk into the other and use those controls and be able to understand the system a little bit, but you're still going to be like, well, what the hell is this Rosong thing, and who the hell are these big cat people, and this, this stinky looking dude next to me. Anyway, I have been requested to stop.
What do we have information that saying that the setup from SOE Live 2013, that was when they first started talking about EverQuest Next?
We didn't see the UI in 2013.
What do we have information to say that information is no longer valid? Because that was kind of like, I think that's what the conversation here for me started. Diggs asked on Twitter and got no reply. But do we have any information saying, well, that's not really what they're doing now? Because that was some of the first information we ever got. With you have these skills, your bar is set up where you've got these skills from your weapon, and these skills from your class, and these skills from your multi-classing abilities. And that kind of, do we know that isn't coming?
Well, from SOE Live 2014, they've definitely talked about the 1, 2, 3, 4 class abilities, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I don't know if there's going to be an analog to set up a similar system in Landmark. Right now, to do something like that, it would basically be having to give us the ability to create like kind of an item that you assign on your hotbar that does the same sort of effect of having, that spell being something in your spellbook that you have access to. It would almost be a sort of thing where we would have to have like semi-instanced data for all the players that ever enter a claim or something that we make, if we want to make sure that that person's only a wizard, they only get the spells that give, or the items that give them those spells or whatever. I don't know how much we're going to be able to do a lot of that stuff with Landmark, but what I do know is with EverQuest Next, they definitely did say we're going to be getting not only the class abilities and the your class abilities and the other classes abilities for the other 4 slots, but I think they are also talking about the kind of expanding the combat to having more than the left click and the right click, and having more combat combinations and stuff. Though I might have been kind of blurring that in one of the Landmark presentations, because SOE Live was kind of a big drunken rager sort of thing. So Some of the panels kind of mixed together for me a little bit.
Not all of them were attended, unfortunately, for me anyway. But
All
it
right,
was
well, I
still
think we're
informative.
Close,
Yeah.
close to wrapping up. So, what I think, what I hope, I think what February, end of February, that's sort of the 1 year anniversary, right, for alpha starting. It would be awesome if that's when closed beta or open beta starts. But I'm pushing that. I have an agenda. I'm only pushing for that because that means that soon closed beta for Next will start, hopefully.
What's funny to me is that when alpha ended, they said something along the lines of like, closed beta is going to be slightly longer than alpha. It's like, yeah, it is by many, many, many times. Holy shit. So I
Closed
definitely
beta
would
was
say
we're in 32 weeks, I think, and it was only 8 or 9 weeks of alpha. So, yeah, long
Yeah.
time.
so. Hopefully, like you said, a couple more months. I mean, definitely. Before we go, what do you think are some of the core systems that need to be in place before we hit open beta?
Dave kind of answered that today. I asked him that. I basically said, all right, so you're saying economy, Storybricks, keywords, and PvE all need to be in before open beta. His response, I think, was something like fair assessment or something like that. He didn't say yes, but more or less said yes. So that's my answer.
And crafting 2.0.
There's no crafting 2.0 anymore.
Oh.
We know this. He answered your lead question. You gave him a yes or no question, and he gave you a yeah, you're on the right lines answer. And if it were open-ended, I wonder if there's something else. I wonder if just none of us asked the right question. Like, well, what about this? We know that I think that you are very much on the right lines. Those are the main things that come. But I would love a definitive list. It looks to me, based on that, like your question and looking at the roadmap, that they're hoping by the end of the year to have everything that, or the majority of that already in. The economy, though, I don't even know where to begin with thinking about that. We're so short on information on how this new economy is going to work.
Have you guys seen the overlay for Storybricks? Like, did you guys see that newer video? I don't think we ever talked about it here on this show.
Which the re-release of the SOE Live video?
Yeah, they actually showed some Storybricks like UI.
Yeah, well, we should definitely talk about that next week. I think we need to
Next
be
time.
looking to wrap things up here. So let's do a little around the room here, and we'll definitely have to bring that for the next one. Next time we're going to have everybody on, if I'm not mistaken, or at least everybody who's still alive. So
Yeah.
we haven't heard from Locke. If anybody hears from Locke, please, send a message to Theory Forge, send a message to me or Geo or really any of
We should
us.
get like a lost or found reward thing and just stick it on his overlay. Like, please
Tell him I'm
call
just
this
my late
number.
night conversation.
All right, but yeah, definitely wrap up time. So, Phantom X, why don't you start? We'll go clockwise.
All right, yeah. Extra Life is over, so it's back sort of the normal grind. Just actually, there's been a little bit more discussion on Nexus, surprisingly. So some good stuff. So if you want to get off of the official boards, come on over to us. And other than that, I'm going to actually start streaming some more. I've switching jobs, so I have free time. So, and actually, if there's anyone that does designs, I need to info or work with somebody about kind of art stuff. So that's it.
I can make some cool design in snow using urine. I've done that before. That's about it.
It's already that time of year,
Not
huh?
for you, if you can't.
What does that cost?
It depends on the size. How much water you have to pay for the water too.
A flight to somewhere it snows.
Yeah, that too. Does not snow in SoCal. All right,
Yeah,
Geo,
I knew.
definitely.
All right, so thanks for coming by, guys. Giovanni. I'm going to start streaming starting Monday. I'll be playing Landmark again, so very excited about that. Right now my time scheduled 12 p.m. Pacific time to 8 p.m. Pacific time. So that's 8 hours of Landmark and potentially a little bit of other games sprinkled in between, maybe. So yeah, Friday Night Fight Club. We're waiting on the armor bug to be fixed. That way, we don't have to spend half the time actually adminning players and stuff. So as soon as that's fixed, we will get back with our competitions. Lorgasms on Saturday, 12 p.m. Not starting this tomorrow, or it's not starting tomorrow, but it's starting next week. And that's it. Thanks for coming, guys.
Sog, how about you?
Hey guys, I'm Sog. I play some games. I have opinions, lots of them, about more than just games, so come ask me anytime. I'm likely not going to be streaming much Landmark. I'm trying to find the right opportunity to it. As I'm looking at the roadmap, a couple new features coming in that I would love to stream, and I'm looking forward to that. In the meantime, playing a lot of Beyond Earth. I love my strategy. I'm a huge strategy game fan, but I'm also going to be playing some Project Spark. So playing around with an actual AI, mob scripting editor that if you have an Xbox or Windows 8.1, you could get your hands on for free and mess around. I think it's good practice for what may or may not come into Landmark as it comes. So I'm sticking with the theme, all of these great games, and branching out. Also soon, Planet Explorers. Somebody was wondering what voxel animation is. There's people want. I'll load up some Planet Explorers. I can make a car. And I can drive it around. So there are lots of other games similar. I don't have Life is Feudal. I've heard that there are a lot of good crossovers there as well. Daddy-O streams that quite a bit. But yeah, stop by and I'll talk to anybody anytime on Twitter, or I'll answer any Twitch message if you want to talk to me. If not, I'll be alone. Bye.
Yep. All right.
Maybe if you invited me over to your house once in a while, jeez. Wouldn't be so lonely.
So
There's
you can pee in your
beer,
snow.
there's beer, there's food, there's trees.
Is there snow? Because that's what's important.
Yep. All right, and of course, I'm Legendary Neurotoxin. On this channel, you can find me streaming all sorts of stuff, usually Landmark, 2 hours a day, plus a few more hours with some of the talk shows, and then the other half of the time, I'm doing Who's Gaming Now? And we've got some more stuff coming up with that. In fact, since we're a little bit over, I'm going to be back in 45 minutes with some of that action. So it is going to be a lot of fun, and I will see you folks for all sorts of awesome stuff. Oh, also content and creations. If you've got a build that you want to get toured, you got a PvP arena that you want to get some battles going on, show off, get some feedback, anything like that, just something cool, you made an awesome mural, hit me up. Down below on my page, I've got forms where you can apply to be on content and creations, or live feature rant and dead feature rant. And yeah, that's it. See y'all later. Have a good one. Happy Halloween!
That was a nice exit there, Neuro.